Adarsh, video from the start can start now. From the, okay, it started? Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Sahari and Adi, for welcoming our guests today with that beautiful improvised piece.
Good evening, esteemed guests. My name is Zaha,
And I'm Darves.
and it gives us immense pleasure to welcome you to this very special occasion.
Tonight is a celebration of the British School New Delhi reaching yet another incredible milestone, 20 years of the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. The true power of the IB program lies in its transformative nature. Alongside positively impacting TBS's pedagogical practices, it continues to shape the lives of all individuals within our school community. We hope you enjoyed exploring the thought-provoking exhibition in the art foyer, and we are delighted to present more inspiring works by our IB students this evening. At TBS, the arts hold a special place, offering students a meaningful journey of expression and self-reflection.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker tonight is someone who has spent his life dedicated to learning and education. Mr. Olli-Pekka Heinonen, the Director General of the International Baccalaureate, studied law at the University of Helsinki, graduating with a Master of Laws. From there, he combined his strong academic foundation with public service, serving as Finland's Minister of Education and later as the Minister of Transport and Communications. He went on to play a major role in shaping Finland's educational landscape as Director General of the Finnish National Agency for Education, before taking up his current leadership of the IB in 2021. It is a privilege to begin our celebration tonight with a message from someone whose career has been built on the values of education and innovation, Mr. Olli-Pekka Heinonen.
Good evening, everyone. From IB students, parents, and educators to diplomats, industry leaders, and distinguished guests. It's a true pleasure to join you from IB's global headquarters in Geneva as you celebrate 20 years of the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program in the British School, New Delhi. This milestone is a tribute to your students and teachers today. It is also a tribute to the generations of visionaries who built this community. When your school first opened in 1963, you began with just 30 students from 5 nationalities. That bold beginning, supported by the British High Commissioner and his wife, set the tone for what you are today, an inclusive international community of nearly 1,300 students. A school where more than 60 nationalities learn together. You are a multicultural, multilingual, and international at heart. Along the way, you have built a strong identity, including some notable dates from your recent past. 16 years ago, the panther became your school mascot. 18 years ago, your students become wearing uniforms. And 20 years ago, you introduced the IB Diploma Program. The IB is proud to be part of your school's DNA, alongside the traditions that bind together such a diverse community. And let me say how impressed I am with your school's level of care for the whole student. With 4 full-time well-being counselors, you place mental heart and resilience at the heart of education, a model worth celebrating. And with a 100% university acceptance rate, you prove that excellence here goes hand in hand with confidence and preparation for life. Your IB graduates have gone on to lead, innovate, and serve. And your teachers are at the heart of that story. Many are IB examiners, workshop leaders, and curriculum developers. I've had the honor to collaborate with your director, Vanita Uppal, OBE, on her capacity as a member of the IB School Leadership Advisory Council, and through her contributions there, I have learned to understand and appreciate the success of this school. You are thought leaders not only in India, but across the global IB family. And tonight's gala captures that spirit, celebrating your journey, showcasing student talent, and sharing the voices of alumni and teachers. To the entire school community, past and present, I congratulate you warmly on this anniversary. And I congratulate TBS on your collective impact on students, on your city, and the global community. Here's to the next 20 years of working together as a diverse and united community, learning, leading, and shaping a better world.
Thank you, Mr. Heinonen, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share this heartwarming message with us. It's truly an honor for someone with your expertise and passion for education to recognize the impact that this program has had on our school.
Up next, we are truly delighted to present a heartfelt performance by our talented senior vocal ensemble. Music has always been a powerful medium for expression, and tonight they will be sharing a piece that speaks directly to the spirit of hope and unity. The ensemble will be performing Be a Light, a song with a powerful message that resonates deeply with the values of the IB, our collective ambition to create a better and more peaceful world through education. Through their voices, they remind us that even the smallest light can inspire change, and that together we can illuminate a brighter future.
What an inspiring rendition that was. As we move forward in our program, we are excited to present a performance by our talented musicians, Siddhant Chandra, Krishiv Jain, and Doyen Kim, who will be offering a fresh twist on a timeless classic, Pachelbel's Canon in D. This beloved classic, known for its elegance, will be reimagined through their unique interpretation, reminding us how tradition can harmonize with innovation to create something truly memorable.
Thank you, Siddhant, Krishiv, and Doyen, for that electrifying piece. It truly encapsulates the high energy beats and rhythm of the IB program. As part of IB's character education, we are reminded to be balanced, principled risk takers, while also thinking introspectively, qualities that are echoed in our next performance. Please welcome to the stage Chloe McCord, performing an uplifting and soulful rendition of Hero.
Check. inside you and be strong, and you finally see the truth, that a hero lies in you. Whoa, Lord knows dreams are hard to follow, but don't let anyone take them away. Hold on, there will be tomorrow. In time, you'll find the way. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth, that a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you.
Thank you, Chloe. You reminded us of the strength and confidence that come from believing in yourself. It is now our profound honor to invite someone whose vision and dedication have infused the IB spirit throughout our TBS community. Today, we thank our esteemed director, Ms. Vanitha Uppal, OBE, for being a true role model of the IB principles.
Her continual guidance reminds students, past and present, to be active global citizens, to be reflective, independent thinkers, and to approach challenges with a measured and balanced determination. And, on that note, we would like to invite our director, Ms. Vanitha Uppal, OBE, to the stage to share her message and to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to celebrate yet another marvelous milestone of this absolutely remarkable institution, the completion of the IBDP 20 years, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it does deserve an applause. It is indeed my proud privilege to share this glorious occasion with our distinguished guests. Our chief guest, Dr. Tharoor, representatives of prestigious universities from India, UK, Germany, Australia, USA, Spain, to name a few, the champion of counseling across nations and the head of the IC3 movement, members of the executive committee of the All India IB Heads Association and the Association for South Asia, the leadership team of NIASC, our friends from the diplomatic community and trade missions, renowned educators, past and present governors, IB alumni and trustees of the Alumni Trust Association, members of the PSA, IB parents, the stellar teachers and leaders of TBS, and of course, the stars of the show, our IB students. Welcome to the evening. Let me begin by thanking Ollie Pekka for his warm and wonderful greetings. And ladies and gentlemen, please allow me if I take a minute to swoon over the performances of our students. Their talent and passion to excel is indeed my biggest inspiration. Even though I am a teacher of history, let me assure you, I am not about to narrate the chronology of the last 20 years. But please do indulge me to share a few pivotal moments in that journey. The first, as always, is the why. Why did we as a school decide to introduce the IB diploma program to our students? The answer is very simple. It was driven by a desire to offer an authentic and impactful provision to our students that would equip them with the skills and attributes to shape a better world. We might argue that we've made a pretty big mess of it. Over the last 2 decades, I have witnessed firsthand the profound impact of the diploma program on the learning journeys of our students, which have been authentic, transformative, and holistic. I say with pride and gratitude that our students not only excel academically, but emerge as authentic global citizens demonstrating compassion, empathy, and a worldview that in today's world I think is critical, a worldview that is underpinned by a respect and appreciation of diverse perspectives and a belief in the sense of a shared humanity. Having adopted the IB learner profile as the anchor of our teaching and learning, we know that whether we are speaking to a 5-year-old at TBS or a 15-year-old, the attributes of the learner profile shine right through. Immense gratitude goes to my colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, can I have a round of applause for all the teachers past and present, parents and governors who have been they have been our steadfast partners and cheerleaders, I dare say, through this fabulous journey. The rigor of the IB curriculum, combined with its focus on understanding ways of knowing, has enabled our students to carry forward the values of open-mindedness, reflection, and balance in a rapidly changing world. True to the IB mission of nurturing student agency, our IB alumni have gone on to read at prestigious universities and have succeeded in diverse sectors, grounded in the school's mantra of driving purpose with passion. That our students are able to flourish in what clearly now is a volatile and uncertain world is evidence that they have imbibed the IBDP toolkit of creativity, critical thinking, and principled action. In the words of Olli-Pekka, education must do more than just keep up. It should empower students to lead in a changing world. To the current cohort of IB students, I say, make the most of your time in the diploma program. Immerse yourself in it and savor its belief in the individual and the power of the collective which you will help shape. Speaking of shaping the world, it is indeed my profound privilege and pleasure to introduce a man who really needs no introduction. He is a member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, currently serving his 4th term as a Lok Sabha MP representing the constituency of Thiruvananthapuram. He is the chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs. He has previously chaired the Parliament Standing Committee on Information Technology and has also served as a Minister of State for Human Resource Development and Minister of State for External Affairs in the Government of India. Before entering Indian politics, he had a 3-decade-long career in the United Nations. There he served as a peacekeeper, refugee worker, and administrator at the highest levels, including as senior advisor to the Secretary General and as Under Secretary General for Communications under the leadership of Kofi Annan. Many of you would have read his books. Dr. Tharoor is an award-winning author of over 27 books. I'm afraid I haven't read all of them, just a few, both fiction and non-fiction. He has won numerous awards, including the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman, a Commonwealth Writers' Prize, the Crossword Lifetime Achievement Award, and the Sahitya Academy Award. And the next one is a tongue twister for me. I'm not a linguist, but I've been trying to get trained by my students. If I get it wrong, you can tick me off. He has also been awarded come on, Darves. Okay, okay. Encomidia de Real Española, I got it wrong, de Carlos Tres, I got the Tres right. The Spain's highest civilian honor awarded by the King of Spain, and the Chevalier de Légion d'Honneur by the government of France, their highest civilian distinction. I must have got the pronunciations wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm TBS welcome to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Sir, may I invite you to the podium? I think we can do louder. I think we can do louder. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Vanita, for that very generous introduction. Mrs. Vanita Uppal, faculty of the British School, parents, friends, and above all, the IB students here today. I'm really delighted to be at the British School. I was invited here on a few occasions in the past, ended up doing an online session during the COVID pandemic, but never quite managed to come here and address this auditorium. So Vanita insists. So I thought I had a dim recollection of having done it once before, but if not, and if this is the first time, I'm delighted it's on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the IB program. First of all, this is a school where curiosity meets courage, and where the minds of tomorrow are being shaped today. So to the students gathered here, the emerging leaders, thinkers, and innovators, and to, of course, their esteemed teachers, the faculty here, who guide them, I extend a warm greeting, not only as your keynote speaker for the occasion, but as the father of 2 IB products myself. My twin sons are both alumni of the UN International School in New York, which claims to have invented the IB program some 6 decades ago. Now, when you walk through the gates of the British School, as I've just done, you don't just enter an institution of classrooms and corridors, you step into a living history. For more than 60 years now, this school has been shaping young minds and preparing them to face the world with confidence and courage. What began in 1963 with a handful of children from just a few countries has grown today into a vibrant community of, did you say 40 nationalities, Vanita? 60, my word. And at the same time, that one that reflects the vibrant spirit of modern India, diverse, dynamic, and deeply connected to the outside wider world. Now, the story of the school is not written in buildings or textbooks, but in the countless acts of initiative its students and teachers have shown, whether it was the first student council here, born from a simple request for a water cooler, I gather, or the bold step of embracing international curricula like the IB Diploma, and of course the wonderful extracurricular talents on display here today. As one of the IB's founding directors has said, I quote, "The IB was never intended to be just another curriculum. It is an instrument for preparing young people to act wisely, think critically, and live compassionately in a world of diversity." I think that's a wonderful, wonderful motto, a vision that positions education as a transformational tool. And if this is the spirit that defines the British School, one that adapts, embraces change, and welcomes the world, then all I can do is applaud it. Every milestone in this journey has been a reminder that institutions like individuals grow when they dare to embrace change. Now, the topic I've been given today by Mrs. Uppal is leadership and geopolitics. And I thought, how on earth do I address something as completely complicated as that without getting myself into all sorts of trouble with Mr. Trump and his friends? So I'm not going to go into a literal interpretation of the topic, but let me look at it from a broader perspective. You know, as a child, my own asthma often kept me indoors while others played outside, and at the time, I felt deeply frustrated. It seemed like an imprisonment. But those hours at home, struggling to breathe, became the space where I discovered books and ideas and the wider world. I read voraciously, I imagined endlessly, and I began to write. One of my stories was published in a newspaper before I turned 10. And what I fancied was a novel, but really wasn't long enough to be one, got serialized in a magazine shortly before my 11th birthday. Looking back, what seemed like confinement was actually in some ways character-building preparation. It taught me resilience. It taught me that one must turn setbacks into strengths. And that, in essence, I realized later, not immediately, but I realized in time, is a kind of leadership not waiting for perfect circumstances, but creating possibility out of your own circumstances, even if they are constrained ones. And so when I speak of the wider world of geopolitics and the responsibilities that we all look upon as we look at the world, I would say that we all have to make very similar choices. Because the world you're stepping into is much less a calm pond than a restless, turbulent ocean. Wars in one corner of the globe can affect fuel prices in another. A choice made in Silicon Valley can ripple across the job markets in New Delhi. Climate disasters in distant islands remind us that no nation is an island. In such a world, the real question is not whether you will be touched by geopolitics. You already are. As somebody once said about water pollution, we all live downstream. But the real question is whether you will learn to shape it rather than just allow yourself to be shaped by it. Leadership, then, is not about waiting your turn. It's about preparing yourself today to navigate that storm tomorrow. And if the British School has given you anything, it must be the compass to steer your ship with courage, with wisdom, and with vision into that turbulent ocean. Now, leadership is often misunderstood. Many think it's about holding high positions, sitting at the head of a table, or issuing orders, but actually it's not. In fact, more than 2,000 years ago, there was a wonderful poem by a Chinese poet that I read ages ago and that's stuck in my mind. It was about kings, but it really applies to all leaders too. And it went something like this: the worst king is the one who is feared. The next worst is the one who commands, who is respected and obeyed, but not loved. The next worst is the king who is loved but doesn't do anything else. But the best king of all, said this Chinese poet, is the king who accomplishes a great deal, but when he does it, the people all say, we did it ourselves. That is really the best kind of leadership. Leadership about influence, taking responsibility, guiding others, and getting others to fulfill your vision. It's about understanding people, listening to their struggles, striving for a vision larger than oneself. And by the way, you don't have to be grown up very much to be a leader. Malala Yousafzai showed how one voice can demand education for millions. Greta Thunberg reminded the world that age is no barrier to holding leaders accountable on climate. And here in India, countless young entrepreneurs are proving that courage, curiosity, and determination can transform ideas into opportunities that benefit many, not just a few. Leadership is everywhere. It begins in classrooms, in communities, in the choices you make every day at home, to speak, to act, to care. Now, I've had the privilege of working at the United Nations, as Vinita Uppal told you, for 29 years, to see and exercise different forms of leadership. I served refugees coordinating aid, rescuing Vietnamese boat people on the high seas, finding them new homes in new countries through whatever skills of persuasion I had, in getting diplomats and ministers to change or bend their rules to accommodate people whose next generation has now grown up French or Canadian or whatever, because I was able to succeed in persuading those ministers to bend those rules. I don't think it was particularly extraordinary. It just seemed necessary. They did what was needed to listen, to organize, to ensure that help reached those who needed it. And yet, I knew that I could put my head to the pillow at night, every night, knowing that things I'd done during the day had made a difference to human beings' lives, real human beings whom I could see and meet in many cases, not just figures on a piece of paper. Leadership in many ways is not about glory, it's about responsibility, it's about fulfillment. It's about recognizing that the needs of others are what really matters, much more than your own, and that empathy and action are inseparable. And yet, of course, leadership doesn't exist in a vacuum. The world you're stepping into is volatile, uncertain, complex, and interconnected in ways that previous generations could scarcely imagine. Geopolitics, of course, is the study of how nations interact, compete, cooperate, and so on, and therefore it's the stage on which the qualities of leadership you cultivate may one day be tested. Think of it as a giant chessboard. Every move matters. Every decision you make has consequences later, stretching far beyond the particular piece that you moved on the board. India, I'd like to think, occupies a special place on the chessboard, between East and West, between North and South, a balancing force, maintaining dialogue, forging partnerships, navigating crises in ways that go beyond simple competition and certainly beyond conflict. The same qualities that make a good leader in school, resilience, empathy, curiosity, courage, are the qualities that allow nations to act wisely on the world stage. Understanding geopolitics is not just about maps or treaties. It's about seeing how local actions resonate globally and how global trends can shape opportunities, communities, and your future. Geopolitics is therefore inseparable from the choices that leaders make every day. Acting with courage and conscience is essential, but understanding the impact of those actions is what defines true wisdom in public life. The world is neither calm nor predictable. As I said earlier, it's a stormy, turbulent ocean. And whether you're navigating projects in your school, volunteering in your community, or shaping your country's future as a global citizen, the choices you make today will matter far beyond the classroom. The compass that you carry with you is your empathy, your courage, and of course, the vision nurtured here at your school. All of these should guide you, I hope, to act wisely, to inspire others, and perhaps even to shape the world in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. Geopolitics is more often shaped by persuasion and perception than by armies or overt power. Often it's about vision, principle, and the capacity to act wisely amidst uncertainty. History offers lessons in these qualities. Gandhiji, for example, the Mahatma, led without armies, relying on moral authority to reshape an entire nation. Nelson Mandela, in a very different context, demonstrated the extraordinary strength of reconciliation and forgiveness. Winston Churchill, I'm not a fan of his, but let's face it, he and FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, facing existential threats during World War II, exemplified different forms of decisive leadership in moments of crisis. While in India, Pandit Nehru's steadfast commitment to non-alignment illustrated how a clear vision can navigate a turbulent international landscape without being swept aside. Today's landscape is defined by interwoven challenges. The unipolar moment of the early 1990s, dominated by the US, has given way to a complex coexistence with China as a rival and partner. COVID-19 accelerated shifts towards protectionism and all sorts of other tendencies, a greater reliance on your own governments that people found essential, trying to bring production, supply chains back home or closer to home through friendshoring and nearshoring. The fragility of global supply chains suddenly became apparent. Simultaneously, we've seen the rise of the global south. We've seen demographic transformations in the world, with India now the world's most populous nation. Technological prowess has granted emerging economies a voice that cannot be ignored. Within this complicated, changing, transforming world, India has reimagined its foreign policy as multi-alignment, cultivating relationships across multiple networks, practically an alphabet soup. I remember when I first invented that term 20 years ago at a speech in California, I was thinking about the unipolar world we were then living in, and I said, look, it's no longer really a world of Cold War binaries, so let's think of it instead as the world of the World Wide Web, where we're connected to each other in different ways for different purposes, but perhaps connected for one purpose to one person and to another purpose for another purpose to another person, and the two of them may not be connected to each other for a third purpose. It all depends, just like the internet. And so multi-alignment, I said, is illustrated by India, which in those days met annually with the Indian foreign minister met annually with the Chinese and the Russian in something called RIC. Then they added the Brazilians and the South Africans in something called BRICS. Then they subtracted the Russians but kept the Chinese in something called BASIC for environmental negotiations. And then they subtracted both the Russians and the Chinese for something called IBSA for South-South cooperation. And India was the only country that belonged to all four of them, and not merely because its name so conveniently begins with that most essential element in any acronym, a vowel, but because India actually had something to contribute to each of these forums and to gain from each of these forums. That's multi-alignment, cultivating relationships across multiple networks, asserting influence without entanglement, navigating the space between powers with agility, and in many ways that's a different sort of leadership. It's not just diplomacy alone. It requires all sorts of adeptness, technological, economic foresight, India's cutting edge digital economy, defense capabilities, innovation, such as the United Payments Interface now, which has been adopted by 19 countries. It's beginning to make good strides in artificial intelligence. All of this suggests new ways in which influence in the 21st century can extend beyond traditional military might. Engagement in global crises, from peacekeeping missions to vaccine diplomacy, demonstrates that leadership in a multipolar world combines capability with credibility. Yet challenges persist. Tariffs, that dread word these days, regional tensions, the potential erosion of global institutions and the rules-based international order we used to hear about. Yet, though they test the ability to act strategically without compromising your national interests, they also require the same qualities that we admire in leadership: courage, empathy, vision, moral clarity. The task is not merely to survive the storm of global events, but to shape them responsibly, leveraging influence, fostering cooperation, and preserving sovereignty. In this context, navigating geopolitics is an exercise in balance between principle and pragmatism, between national interest and global responsibility, and between ambition and restraint. As history shows, nations that cultivate clarity of purpose, strategic foresight, and moral authority are those that endure and can lead. India's position, I'd like to think today, exemplifies this, that it's equipped to engage the world, it's capable of defending its interests, and it's uniquely placed to act as a stabilizing, innovative, and principled force in an unpredictable, interconnected global disorder. Geopolitics might sound distant, abstract, something that happens in faraway capitals, but the lessons it offers are surprisingly close to home for every student in this room. Take adaptability. The world is changing rapidly, and those who cannot adapt just get left behind. Nations must pivot, sometimes overnight, when alliances shift, economies fluctuate, or new technologies emerge. Students, too, will have to face up to the demands of flexibility. In about 2023, I think, there was a study by the Oxford Martin School that said that 30% of the jobs in the world in 2030 will be jobs that don't exist today. Today was 2023. That's already well on the way to becoming true. So many jobs have been created by AI that didn't exist in 2023. So many more will be created by 2020, but many more will be lost. And I ask the teachers, how do you train your students for jobs that don't exist? You can't. And so the secret, as I'm sure you all know, is don't teach the children what to think, teach them how to think. Because that's all that's going to matter when they get into that unfamiliar world and have to deal with problems they could never encounter in a textbook because those challenges didn't exist when the textbooks were written. Those are the challenges in the way in which we learn and work that you, the children in IB today, will be facing in a few years' time. The ability to adjust, to pivot without losing sight of your goals is what keeps both nations and individuals moving forward. And the vision is also important. Leaders can't just react. They have to anticipate. They should imagine what could be. They should have an idea what they want the world to be. They should think in terms beyond the next election. I'm afraid that's not always easy for a democratic politician. They think of things that take decades to realize: space programs, green energy, digital revolutions, and so on. They have to learn to look beyond the immediate to the long term, to the future. And students, you've got to do that too. Cultivate a long-term perspective, the courage to imagine. I've got it, thank you. The courage to imagine what might be possible, what can innovate, inspire, and make choices today that can shape your tomorrow. Vision is the bridge between who we are now and what we can become. Ethics too, very important. It's a compass that ensures that your ship doesn't sink. In geopolitics, moral dilemmas are constant. Choices are rarely simple. Ethics are the compass that guide us through complex choices. For you students, and I don't know whether the British school teaches you ethics formally. Do you have a course in ethics? Do you have what my school used to call moral science? I will say very, very important, because leadership isn't just about ambition, it's about integrity too. You've got to recognize that achievements are hollow if they come at the cost of honesty or fairness. Doing the right thing isn't always easy. Doing the thing right is equally important. It's what gives decisions their lasting value. And then, of course, there's collaboration. Remember the story, the Chinese verse about the kings. No country today, however powerful, can act alone. You can't fence your climate off in the sky. Environment, you need to act in cooperation with others. Human rights is a matter that transcends borders. Human trafficking, drug abuse. There are so many issues and problems that affect us all. Cooperation is not an option, it's essential. And in a multipolar world, cooperation is unavoidable, because in school, in projects, in life, students who learn to work with others, to build alliances, to listen as much as they can lead, are the ones who create outcomes far greater than what any individual talent can ever achieve. Learn to work together. Whether you once believed you could do everything on your own or not, however much you do on your own, you'll do more if you can do it with a team around you. So in the world of geopolitics, one takeaway is very simple. Adaptability, vision, ethics, collaboration are the same qualities that make nations succeed and make students succeed. They're not abstract concepts. They're tools ready to be used, if only we pay attention. And the truth is, in the world, just like this classroom, you will find that the world is watching, waiting, ready for you to step forward with courage, with clarity, and with conscience. So what role can young people play in this evolving global order? In India, and for I know that Indians are, 40% of your student body, you said, Vanita? But for the Indians in this room particularly, let me say, we are a nation where over half our population is under 30. And so you're not just observers, you are already in the majority. You are the architects of today's and tomorrow's India. I often say the personal is political, the local is global is a cliche, but the curiosity nurtured in your classrooms, the problem-solving practiced in your labs, the conversations and arguments you hold in your debating societies, in your model UNs, all of these will echo far beyond your school walls, because you will find they help you shape communities, industries, and one day national perceptions in India and across the world. I mentioned that you can't fence off your climate. Look at climate diplomacy. We in India have found ourselves pledging ambitious renewable energy targets. We're supporting solar energy projects in other developing nations. We're trying to show that leadership is about balancing national responsibility with global collaboration. Just as during COVID, we tried to send vaccines to the rest of the world, particularly the developing world. It was a very sad story when so many wealthy developed countries found themselves 2 years after COVID throwing away huge buffer stocks of expired COVID vaccines they never needed to use, when during COVID so many poor countries languished without a single shot for the majority of their citizens. India, to my mind, one of its proudest moments was whatever it could do in terms of sending its vaccines to developing countries, it did. These are also ways of demonstrating leadership. And it's, of course, vital, it seems to me, to global influence. You young people also have an obvious advantage over the rest of us fogies when it comes to technological innovation. Innovations in artificial intelligence, in fintech, in digital infrastructure. I mentioned the UPI, India's digital payment system. What began as a domestic innovation is now being adopted globally. So young entrepreneurs, developers, researchers are not only creating economic opportunities, but demonstrating that we can all, including here, we in India, can set and not just follow global technological trends. But when we talk about geopolitics, let's not forget the importance of peace, diplomacy. We mustn't see countries only through the lens of defense or economic might, the sort of hard power that so many countries are proud of, but also their soft power, their ability to attract through their culture, through shaping norms, mediating conflicts, fostering partnerships. India, for example, has the challenge of trying to act as a stabilizing presence, whether in the Indo-Pacific, in negotiations in BRICS, in vaccine diplomacy, as I mentioned, in climate diplomacy. Sometimes you young people might think that diplomacy is very distant from your daily lives, but I can tell you that you're preparing for diplomacy in every aspect of your life, whatever profession you go into, because small acts of engagement, understanding, collaboration are all ultimately the warp and woof of diplomacy. So the world you inherit will be more interconnected, more complex, and more challenging than perhaps previous generations have faced. But here's the truth, and it is a very important truth. It will also offer you opportunities that are unprecedented. Every effort to innovate, every commitment to promote justice, every act of responsible leadership contributes to shaping your country's role in that world. You're not spectators, you are participants. And if you act with courage, foresight, and conscience, you will not only navigate global currents, you will help steer them. Leadership, I have to remind you, is not about waiting for the world to change. It's about changing the world yourself. It's about taking initiative, about shaping the environment in which others will live, think, or act. It's about recognizing that even the smallest choices, whether it's about a project, a collaboration, a decision to speak up, can ripple outward with consequences far beyond what we can immediately see. And that's why I mentioned that chess metaphor early in my remarks. So my young friends, I invite you to become citizens of India or whichever country you belong to, and of the world. Carry the lessons of empathy, courage, and vision from your classrooms at the British School onto the global stage. Learn from history, certainly, but do not be bound by it. I'm sure Mrs. Uppal will forgive me for saying that. Innovate, challenge, question, and act. Let your curiosity guide you. Let integrity anchor you. I think Steve Jobs famously told a university audience once, to be foolish and to be hungry. What did he mean by that? To be foolish meant never stop asking questions even if they seem stupid. Pursue your curiosity. Be hungry means never be satisfied with what you've accomplished. Seek to do more. I think it's not a bad slogan. Be foolish, be hungry. And you can remember that and take it forward. The great Indian poet, the only one who ever won the Nobel Prize for us in literature, Rabindranath Tagore, reminded us, faith and action must go together. The waters, as I said in that metaphor I've used, may be turbulent, the storms may be unpredictable, but those who dare to steer, those who dare to act with purpose, shape not only their own destinies, but the destinies of others, the destinies of nations. And in that spirit, let every one of you in the IB program of the British School aspire to be a force that turns the tide, not just for yourselves, but for your country and for the world. Thank you for listening to me. Congratulations on all that you're doing in the IB program, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Tharoor. We kindly request you to remain on stage to accept a token of our appreciation.
Pop this into that too. Yeah.
Thank you once again, Dr. Tharoor, for sharing your wisdom with us today. Your reflections resonate deeply with our journey as IB students and educators. It is truly an honor to have your perspective guiding us as we celebrate 2 decades of the IB program at the British School.
Now, please welcome Indigo Christina Lerma to introduce our next performance.
We will now witness Metamorphosis, an original performance that fuses dance, music and movement to elucidate the transformative nature of the IB programme. This piece is a physical and emotional journey inspired by the concept of metamorphosis, the process of profound change and growth. Through the blending of different dance styles, rhythmic patterns and expressive physical theatre, we explore how identity is challenged, reshaped and reborn. At the core of our performance is an individual and collective reflection on the IB programme. The International Baccalaureate isn't just about academics, it's a catalyst for transformation. It pushes us to become inquirers, risk-takers and thinkers, encouraging us to move beyond comfort zones, embrace different perspectives and find our voices. In this fusion piece, each stage represents the transformation. From chaos to clarity, from resistance to release, we show how the IB shapes not only students but global citizens, confident, compassionate and open-minded. We now invite you to experience this metamorphosis with us through rhythm, energy and motion.
Doubt clouds inner world. Slowly, wisdom takes its hold. New strength starts to bloom.
Old snow melts to stream. New life bursts from the dark earth. Spring's sweet breath arrives.
Leaves turn gold and red, falling gently to the ground. Winter's sleep arrives.
Bitter winter wind, yet the sun melts icy crowned. Warmth returns anew.
The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here."
You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life.
Inside your cocoon, you think of this as home, but you must learn to fly.
Dintana 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 direna direna dintana dintana direna 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 tana direna tagari doktan direna tana direna tagari doktan direna tana direna tudum direna direna tagari doktan direna tana direna tagari doktan direna tana direna tagari doktan direna tana direna tudum direna tagari doktan direna tana direna tagari doktan direna tana direna
What a captivating performance! It's remarkable how, through light, movement, and sound alone, you have so powerfully conveyed the impact of transformation. Now we turn to someone who has walked this very path before.
We are delighted to welcome back one of our own, Ms. Tarika Khattar, a graduate of the IB program at the British School, class of 2009. She's currently pursuing her PhD in history at Corpus Christi College, University of Cambridge. Her research focuses on the international history of the Kashmir conflict, especially its connections to foreign relations and the global Cold War. She holds a BA in history with honors from the University of Chicago and a Master's of Philosophy in Modern South Asian Studies from Cambridge. Ms. Khattar's academic journey has been recognized with numerous prestigious awards, including the Arthur Schlesinger Jr. Fellowship, the Moody Research Grant, and the Holland Rose Studentship. She is also a teaching fellow at the Global History Lab and, beyond academics, plays cricket for the Cambridge Women's Blues team. Please join us in welcoming Ms. Tarika Khattar.
Thank you both for that very generous introduction. Good evening, everyone. It's truly a privilege to be here today with all of you, and thank you so much for inviting me. No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. I first heard this verse by John Donne, sitting in my year 12 IB English class. At the time, I'll admit, it didn't mean very much to me. I was 17 and caught up in the whirlwind of college applications, student council elections, and generally, like most teens at that age, life wasn't happening fast enough for me. But as the years passed, those lines have grown louder in my memory. And now standing here, 2 decades after the IB was first introduced at the school, I appreciate their meaning more deeply. When my classmates and I began the IB, the school itself was going through great transformation. The move from the A-levels to the IB was still fresh. There was new leadership. New uniforms had just been introduced. It was not a popular decision. Plans for a new building were underway. In fact, this one. I never went to school in this building. It was a time of great change, but it somehow didn't feel uncertain. It felt electric. We were not just witnesses to this change, we were equal stakeholders in it. We were trusted, empowered, and treated as partners in shaping the school's future. That was what made the IB here at TBS so special. The learner profile that you're all familiar with, inquisitive, open-minded, principled, risk-takers, was never just a poster on the wall. Our teachers insisted that we live it every day. They reminded us that our responsibility stretched beyond grades in the classroom, into how we treated each other, how we built community, how we dreamed together. And that is what I carried with me when I left school. The IB never asked me to choose. It didn't say you can either be an entrepreneur or a historian or a filmmaker. It gave me the courage to pursue all of it and to trust that each part of me had value. When I look at my classmates from what was the third batch of the IB, I see people who've taken many different paths, lawyers, scientists, business leaders, but also sculptors, photographers, development economists, creators. Some stayed on well-worn tracks, others forged their own. But the common thread is this: they haven't been afraid to try, they haven't been afraid to fail, and they haven't lived as islands. And that perhaps is the most powerful realization for me as I stand here today, is that we're not islands. We're part of families, communities, nations, and a planet that needs us more than ever before. Today, in a world facing extreme uncertainty, conflict, and rapid change, it's tempting to retreat into silos. But the real challenge and the real opportunity is to engage, to approach the world with curiosity and wonder and hope, and to ask not just what can I achieve, but what can we create together? So to the students here tonight, I'll say this: don't shrink your ambitions to fit into a single box. Don't be afraid of having many interests or of starting over. The world needs people who can cross boundaries, who can think laterally, who can build bridges. That is actually the heart of your IB education. And so I come back to those words of John Donne with a deeper gratitude now than I had at the age of 17. I'm not an island, and that truly is the greatest gift this school has given me. Thank you.
We kindly request you to remain on stage to accept this token of our gratitude. Thank you for those thought-provoking words, Ms. Khattar. I think I speak on behalf of all current IB students when I say that your wise words and academic journey are a strong motivation for us all.
Now, we invite Lola Jocelyn Barrett from Year 13 to share how the IB journey has shaped her as a student.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lola, and I'm a Year 13 student, and I started both journeys with the IB and with the British School last semester. Moving from London, I thought that the weather here would be the most challenging thing to adjust to. It still is, but it was nothing compared to the IB. My first week was spent constantly trying to keep up with all of the IB's acronyms. EE this, IA that, IOs, TOK, CAS. It was a lot. Whilst being launched into the IB was demanding, the transition was made enjoyable due to the warm welcome of so many students who later went on to become my friends. In a matter of weeks, I found myself campaigning to be a part of the student council, running a stall at the Damali Mela, and volunteering as part of the school's program to teach young children across the street from TBS. At the time, I felt like this was just having fun and making friends. But upon reflection, I've realized that I was living the IB mission. I was engaging in community activities and service. I was exercising my student voice and agency, and I was embracing diversity. And of course, I was also attending classes. One thing that I've really come to enjoy about studying at TBS is how flexible the classes are. Through communication and negotiation, teachers and students are able to collaborate in order to make sure that our learning experiences are as personalized as possible and the right fit for all of us. Now, in my second year of the IB program, I've come to appreciate how my lessons aren't just simple memorization. At TBS, classes involve concept-based learning, critical thinking, and then applying this new knowledge to a broader context. The IB's broad curriculum and the opportunity to study at the British School has offered me the abilities to quickly adapt, to communicate my ideas confidently, and set me up to be self-sufficient at university. However, as innovative as these methods are, I must admit that I do miss the easy route of just memorizing flashcards to pass a test. Throughout my time in Year 12 and start to Year 13, the IB has equipped me with resilience, determination, and perseverance, which has put me in the best place possible in such a fast-paced world. The British School encourages me to pursue a holistic approach to education. As you can see from tonight's event, learning at TBS occurs beyond just a classroom. I, like my peers, are offered opportunities to practice public speaking skills, arts, community service, and much more. I find it a privilege to work alongside such a diverse community that celebrates differences and offers a welcoming environment to all. A true reflection of our school's commitment to global citizenship. I'd finally like to take this opportunity to thank the faculty at TBS for making the IB program possible and supporting all of us through this transformative journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Lola, for sharing your journey with us. I'm sure that many of us can relate to those words. Up next, we have a heartfelt solo performance of Go the Distance by Dirve Singh, an optimistic reflection of the determination cultivated through the IB program.
Check.
I'll be there someday. I can go the distance, I will find my way. If I can be strong, I know every mile will be worth my while. When I go the distance, I'll be right where I belong. Down an unknown road to embrace my fate. Though that road may wander, it will lead to you, and 1,000 years would be worth the wait. It may take a lifetime, but somehow I'll see it through, and I won't look back. I can go the distance, and I'll stay on track. No, I won't accept defeat. It's an uphill slope, but I won't lose hope till I go the distance, and my journey is complete. But to look beyond the glory is the hardest part, for a hero's strength is measured by his heart. Like a shooting star, I can go the distance. I will search the world, I will face its harms. I don't care how far, I can go the distance.
Thank you, Durvez, for that uplifting piece. Before we end, we present a powerful and energetic performance of Tarakita by our senior vocal ensemble. This piece blends Indian classical and Western musical traditions, embodying the spirit of intercultural understanding and respect.
Thank you to our incredibly talented senior vocal ensemble for that empowering piece. Could we please have another round of applause for all of our performers? To mark the end of the evening, could we please invite our secondary school principal, Mr. Mark Tate, to address the gathering, share a few words of wisdom, and deliver the closing remarks.
All good? All good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and whichever designation you class yourself of today as well. If we've really listened to everything that's been said today, and we've watched all the performances, what's come through very strongly are quite a few things. First of all, you don't just need to be a student currently at TBS to be a lifelong learner. We've got many, many people here today who studied at TBS over the time, worked here, and believe it or not, mums and dads who've probably learned the IB a lot more as well than they ever envisaged, to be lifelong learners. Considering what's been heard as well, the idea of actually respecting, inspiring, comes through very, very strongly. And I point to the vision and the mission of the school. Thrive, believe, succeed. We respect, reflect, and inspire to achieve excellence. And I want to add a few, if we could add anything extra, it would be in excellence in ourselves, in excellence in others, in excellence in the world around us. And that close connection that the school has within its vision and its mission aligns so well with the IB mission and its philosophy. Now, what we've also heard, 20 years have passed. We've understood the 60-year plus history of the school. And I'm going to paint you a picture of the future. So just bear with me, please. Because the future is definitely optimistic. We really work hard, both at TBS and with the IBDP, to make sure the glass is always half full. So in the 20 years, depending on your age, if we look at things that we know are going to be opportunities for future students and leaders of the world. One is going to be technology, of course. 20 years ago, it was the smartphone, social media. Now, it's AI, quantum. In the future, who knows, but we know it's going to be tech. What else do we know? Well, 20 years ago, globalization hit. The world felt a lot smaller, and the importance of intercultural understanding and being true global citizens hit us. Today, the world is even smaller, and the level of intercultural understanding and EQ is significant. So we know, as we look forward to the next 20 years, it's going to become even more significant. An opportunity in environmental issues. 20 years ago, we were all talking, well, maybe some of us were, about the ozone layer, the hole in the ozone. Now we're talking about air quality, AQI, the microplastics in the waters. And in the future, there'll be opportunities to help make a difference to the environment. So I challenge not just the students who are going to be passing out as part of the IBDP, I challenge future students to look at the future as opportunities and to actually make sure we navigate together the turbulent oceans and ensure that we can work together collaboratively, because it is the only way that we will succeed. So as I bring this as a thank you and to a close for everybody, can I ask you all to give us one more round of applause for the students, the staff, our director, Ms. Uppal, and all of you for making this possible today. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. And thank you all once again for joining us today for our celebration of 20 years of the IB Diploma Program. Here's to 20 more years of innovation, celebration, and shaping the future through education.
Could we please request all current parents and students to remain seated while the student ushers escort the dignitaries to the cafeteria? Thank you.